Morning, everybody. Today is April 8th, time is 9 a.m. This is the county board meeting. Go ahead and go to the roll call.
Flanagan. Yes. Bard. Barons. Bent.
Here.
Crowe. Ducat. Geiger.
Here.
Grant.
Here.
Hughes.
Here.
McGinnis. Munsterman. Parkinson. Watt.
Here.
Whitlow.
Here.
Williams.
Yes. Let's do that. Please introduce our pastor.
Yes, I will. Okay, Pastor Joe Brown has been at Crescent City St. Peter's Lutheran Church for 17 years. Pastor Joe also has a good privilege at Clifton Zion Lutheran Church. He's here this morning to bless you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you greetings from St. Peter's in Crescent City and Zion Lutheran. Thank you for having me here. Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, we pray for these elected leaders in this county and ask that you send them your spirit of justice and peace. Help them to use their authority for the good of all people, that they serve in the unity that we are all gathered children of God. We also lift up before you this day, especially Arlene Hines and Lisa Miller, that you hold them in your loving arms and just be with this county board as they mourn their loss. We pray all this in the name of the one who went to the cross for all of us, Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody's had a chance to look at the agenda. Can I get a motion? Mr. Ault? Mr. Hughes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Had a chance to look at the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Geiger, can I get a second? Mr. Williams? Roll call vote. We have no objections.
Voice comment.
Oh, voice?
Yeah, that's very
Oh, I got it. All right, there's the first mistake of the day. All in favor, say aye.
good.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on. Let's try that again. Can I have a motion to approve payroll? Mr. Williams, can I have a second? Mrs. Crowe? Any further discussion? Now when you're ready to do that.
Flanagan. Yes. Barons.
Yes.
Bent.
Yes.
Crowe. Yes. Ducat.
Yep.
Geiger.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Munsterman. Yes. Parkinson. Yes. Watt.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
And Hall.
I'll move on to public comments. David, I'd like to go first.
You do that?
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. My name is Amy Dingle. I'm the Executive Director at York Health Center. Just wanted to introduce myself to everybody. Started in October of last year. So I was employed at the Mental Health Center from 2016 to 21 and took a short hiatus, 4 years and all of that, finishing in HR. And I was invited by some board members as well as employees to come back and interview for the role of Executive Director. And so that journey started for me in October 7th, to be exact, about 6 months ago. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a quick flyover of what's happening at York Mental Health Center. One of the goals that we have for the coming fiscal is to increase our community engagement and outreach. We have been in the community since 1970 as an independent nonprofit organization, but not necessarily like super deep roots at times. And so I'm just here and getting to the community to get to know people and let them know what we do. So a couple of data points. I'll provide you guys with some information. As you can imagine, things are evolving in our world as far as programs that we will have or we may not have. And so I'm not printing brochures right now. So I'll hand this out after I'm finished. But a couple of data points that we're proud of. We have over 2,300 open plans and 32,000 hours, greater than 32,000 hours are provided here just in 3 specific areas: our Watsika office, Iroquois County Schools, and then state-run facilities such as the Iroquois County Jail. So we're here providing all services for our individuals. A couple of things that we've got going on that are partnerships with people in the community. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Kankakee Community Foundation of Kankakee River Valley. They are a foundation who provides funding for organizations like ours, not only in Kankakee County, but in Iroquois County. A couple of examples of Iroquois County funding, in addition to us, include the Public Library in Clifton, Watsika Rocks project, and then the hub here in Watsika. So we'll be partnering with them to host something called the Nonprofit Leader Connection. So for nonprofit leaders in the community, they can come to an event. It's about an hour long, and it's really a networking and mutual investment in one another. So Nonprofit Leader Connection happening on May 20th. There'll be more information coming out about that, but we're just looking for ways to increase the visibility of this particular organization so that more groups in Iroquois County can receive funding from them. So we have a first responder grant that is likely cut. We're not 100% sure on that yet, but we have through the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30 for us, education and investment that we're making in first responders and their families, not only for suicide prevention, which is a large concern, but also peer support networks that we're building, not only in Iroquois County, but the surrounding areas. We remain available for crisis services 24/7. You can walk in when we're open, and you can call anytime. We're providing mental health awareness at Iroquois West this year. 4th and 5th graders will be there. And an increased presence on social media, not only so that you see who we are, but get to know us a little bit beyond just basic services. So that is just some of the highlights that are happening right now. If you would just pass these around, I'll be available at the end of this meeting to answer any questions, and I'd love to have you come on for tours in that. We've got a beautiful building. It's aged and dated on the outside, however, it's pretty nice on the inside. So, you wouldn't mind, you might?
Yeah.
Just starting that process.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to speak also and let you know that I appreciate your company, also the other company that was working on the grant list, that you covered what has come to the first quarter. I'd like to hear quarterly what's going on, where the money's being spent. That way the people here at Cleveland can understand what's going on. All right, thank you so much. Next. Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for being here. So, my name is Derek Krause from Krause Canine, so you guys know me. Training dogs for me is becoming more community-based. I'm getting more local. Been in 15 states. I'm getting kind of tired. It's 7 years, kind of tired. And so with that, I've been helping a lot of these local communities, local departments, and I was contacted by Officer Jennifer Harrison from Ford County Probation. And because the way we police now, I won't go into safety act, rant, but the probationary officers now cannot crack down on crime somewhere. They have to really come back with more of a social worker mentality. And Harrison and I spoke about this immensely on Sunday morning, how our job has changed. It's become more of an emotional based thing. Whether it's good or bad, it's here, so we have to accept it. So they brought in a dog that's a therapy dog for the action department. And what that entails is the emotional aspects of the work. We have to use that. We have to propagate that a little bit, okay? So when you think about that, let's say a child comes in, it doesn't want to talk, very introverted, and then this crime or this thing happens in a court. Getting kids to talk or getting the witness to speak is important. And so if we need witnesses to speak, you know, all this we look at a puppy, we kind of fall apart a little bit, right? And so I do the same thing. I've trained dogs there, I still kind of fall apart when I see a puppy. They tend to talk more. Or if you have a kid that's on probation and Jennifer knows she can get to him and he'll you know, not come back every time. That dog is gonna talk, and somehow for some reason, you know, this stuff works. So it is known as the first therapy dog in the state of Illinois to have this dog. She took 2 years of paperwork, was very diligent about it. She did not really know this, and just wanted to try to throw it together just for fun. We'll probably, when this thing happens, he's a puppy, we'll probably speak in Springfield about it, because a lot of counties have already said they're gonna be contact her about this. We have to set a standard. Dog training is, you guys can all become dog trainers tonight, there's no real regulation. As long as you talk good, and nobody will know the difference. And so standards for me are becoming very high, and so if we're gonna set the precedent for this, then we wanna make sure it's set high. I've been in talks, I have service dog trainers from Chicago that have been doing this for 20 years, as well as the government who works with Langley, Virginia, 20 NATO countries. And we will actually, some of the work that I do, they will look it over and make sure it's top tier, literally, 2-1. I try to charge them the lowest amount possible I can. The national average for dog training for a full servicer, they're like very high. We are keeping costs under 50% national average. That's unheard of. It really is. I have people all the United States, and I do this. I not eating money, but for my community, I don't mind eating money. Dogs right now that are working with us, Club Alliance, they save over 80% of the cost of national average. I don't consider these write-offs for me. I just literally just don't charge. So it's not like I'm trying to get a write-off from it. Iroquois County, Iroquois Mental Health is actually as a dog with Kim Rabideau. That dog is still in training. It's got some issues we're working through. Not bad issues, just dogs were just, you know, I want something better. I have a high standard. And then we have mobile services dogs. We had a dog in Chabance, kid has cerebral palsy. The price they got for the dog training was insane. And I went up to them and I said, hey, how about this rate? How about this? And she said that was, literally she's only paying 30% of what the average cost was from a trainer from Michigan trainer. And so I'm doing that for them. Like I said, so we're having it, they're gonna formally announce it, and Officer Harrison told me to come in, but I don't want to come in anyways, and I'm not following it, so anytime. April 14th at 6 o'clock at the Ford County Jail, they're introducing him. And so he's a puppy right now, so he's gonna go through the puppy stuff. Currently, right now, he's based in an office learning how to don't do dumb puppy stuff. And so the dog is, screening for these dogs is very hard. I had a lady with a Chihuahua, wanted to make a therapy dog, I could get 5 people. So if one of these counties contacts me and says, hey, we have a dog, and I say it's not the right dog, they're gonna shun me and say I'm the worst trainer ever, but I'm gonna have high standard. So we have to have that. And we have service dogs that are, Henry at Big R is getting bid by them. One of the dogs was actually training with me before in the past, and I don't want to get into that, but I was like, dogs that are trained to do some of the things I teach should not be in there, and dogs that are doing those things, we have to be more responsible, because I don't want runnings to lose their ability to have dogs there, because some older people, that's the only time they do it to them. It's not for me to train dogs, it's so other people can have an opportunity to do that. And with the park growing over there, and with this growing over here, that's going to become more and more common all the time. Anything else going to go through here? The travel. So my wife and I were doing the math on the travel for last year. I had my lowest amount of traveling in 5 years. It was 55,000 miles with selections. The year before that, I drove 73,000 miles. Next year, I plan on this year I'm getting a school on the East Coast. I'm getting a school in Texas. I'm going to be going out to Virginia, working with the government official guy, job shadow. And then next year I'm going to Vegas, to Reno, to Mexico, to San Diego, to Tampa. And so I got to make sure that I go out there and teach, but I got to make sure that I'm still here. So I will travel, but I want to let you guys know that, like, if you guys have any people that have a therapy dog, and truly, this can't be, we want a therapy dog, walk around in public. If you want it done, we can do it at a low level. But like, we have a lot of things now, because dogs are now like an awareness thing. Let's face it. They put dogs on everything since COVID. And so I don't like some of that stuff. So I want to make sure that if somebody comes in and they want a therapy dog for their cause or event for awareness with that they do it the right way. And so it's really usually hard to do something cheap and right. Anytime you guys want to build a house, the cheapest one usually is the one that's not going to be the best. So I'm trying to be the best training at the cheapest for all you guys. So, like I said, again, April 14th at 6 p.m., they're going to announce it. If any of you guys personally know Officer Harrison, she is a bubbly individual. And we talked about our jobs and how much we care and bring the emotion home. We all know first responders, they have high suicide rate. Those people go through the same things, they just do it in a different part of the process. So probation is a very different thing now. You can't crack down like they used to be, so we have to use something else in their favor. So one more thing, the new animal control administrative spot, I was in talks with a board member, Donna, and the position, so if you look down all the requirements, when they have to all of a sudden learn like Excel and PowerPoint and then do all the on-call stuff, sadly for us, we don't want to spell on animal control like that. I think that is a human control issue. It's not an animal control issue, it's a human control issue. When you get officers having a call on dogs and cats, and they should be out there busting crime, and they have to call animal control, like, you understand what I'm trying to say. The position, another person could take that job in a dog industry, doing all the on-call work, and then doing the actual Excel and that programming stuff. They're gonna end up getting paid more, so I think that that's what's scaring some people away. I'm just, bare bones. I will try to lot bare bones ideas. And so, I do know Angela personally, animal control, she is a really hard worker. I wish she could get the job, but she works at Casey's, and she has to work that job to make up for the price of everything that's went up. Like I said, servicing goods have went up since COVID like crazy. Some things dropped. But I've not raised my rates since 2021. And the price of everything else has went up. And every year I keep going into deductions and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm trying to do this the best I can to make sure you guys don't split away. But it's really special to be the first person I want to do it because there's going to be other people that try and they're not going to do as good of a job. So I appreciate everybody's doing it. And Clint can speak about it some other time maybe after the meeting about how different the policing is. I mean, we have people now that are fighting officers and they're getting out of jail the same night. And so we want to make sure that if we're going to have to deal with kids, if we have to use emotional aspects, let's use a dog. All right, thank you so much for this.
Thank you. The other public comments?
All right.
Thank you.
I'm Ross Cleaver, I live in Multiple Property, and I understand we're getting a solar farm. I guess it's gonna go through over here, and just, I think our farmland should be preserved instead of covered with solar panels. If people own the farmland, I guess they can. And last week we had southern Iroquois County, a couple of tornadoes went through. That got me thinking, when you see this damage, it just spread over miles, just building material for miles. I thought, well, if we get this 300-acre solar farm, what's going to happen with that stuff? The tornado goes through and spreads it out for 5 miles. I guess there's funds when the solar farm is finished to clean it up and make it farm again. So what kind of funds are there to clean up storm damage when it's spread out back to town? And then I talked to the representative. He said he stopped by my house. He said there's going to be a big transmission line going right past my house. And I stepped it off yesterday, like 100, 110 feet. I don't really think that's right to bring a big transmission line basically through my front yard. I guess that's about it. I'm just concerned about the solar farm going in. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. We have a public comment.
Good morning. The reason I'm up here to speak at this county board meeting is to recognize, acknowledge, and have on public record that Iroquois County Deputy Brock Myers was awarded the 2024 Award for Valor by the Illinois Sheriff's Association. Many of you are probably aware of this award, but I want to read the accomplishment dates from the ISA Spring 2025 legislature called pick up. On September 1st, 2024, at approximately 7:30 p.m., dispatchers received a 911 call in Clifton, Illinois from a child that reported their stepdad was suicidal. Iroquois County Deputy Brock Myers was involved in the vehicle pursuit of this subject with mental health issues. It was believed at the time that he may have his wife at gunpoint in the vehicle with him. Deputy Brock Myers did not know it at the time, but he would end this evening in the face of danger and a law enforcement battle. During the pursuit, Deputy Myers conducted himself professionally as the suspect entered into Indiana and ultimately back into Illinois. At speeds upwards of 90 miles per hour, the pursuit wound through Indiana, then back towards Sheldon, Illinois. There were twists, turns, the suspect driving through a road-closed barricade, and eventually over spiked strips. Chaos ensued and the situation ended in a standoff. Iroquois County Sheriff's Deputy Brock Myers was honored with this Iroquois Sheriff's Association Valor Award for his courage and bravery. He showed extraordinary heroism at imminent risk of his own serious bodily injury while demonstrating courage. Every day he shows up, a police officer who risks his life to protect citizens in his county. Obviously, Brock isn't with us, being the humble man that he is, but I would invite everyone to join me in standing and congratulating Deputy Brock Myers on earning the Dynasty 2024 Award for Valor. Okay.
All right, moving on to chairman comments. As we know, we've lost Lisa Miller and we lost Harley Hines this past month. Lisa Miller is having a private funeral, I believe. Weddings on Harley Hines. She's our former Iroquois County Circuit Clerk. She passed away at 92. She served 3 terms as Circuit Clerk. She was elected in 1996, retired in 2008. She was hired right after high school to the county clerk's office in 1950, then hired to the circuit clerk in 1952. She was elected circuit clerk in 1996, serving until retirement, for a total of 58 years. Her visitation will be Tuesday, April 8th, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Nat Funeral Home in Milford. Funeral service will be Wednesday, April 9th to 11. at 11 p.m. Moving on, I'm pleased to have the moment of silence for that. Thank you. This month is also National Autism Awareness Month. I very simply ask you to do better. Son, kids at home with me. Kids are mean. Stop it. That's it for chairman comments. Move on outside organizations.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Iroquois County Board and guests. I'm Angel Crawford with the Executive Director with the Iroquois Economic Development Association. Here's the news for April. Melbourne Public Schools new virtual classroom technology. We recently attended the March Milford Area Public School, or MAPS, Business Roundtable meeting and spoke with Superintendent John Klaber about a new program that they're implementing. MAPS has applied to participate in the RISE grant program to support an innovation of advanced virtual classroom technology in your school district. Under this grant, 85% of the total cost will be covered by the grant, with Milford contributing the remaining 15%. Through this opportunity, the MAPS district plans to acquire both a permanent virtual classroom setup and a mobile setup. This technology will allow MAPS to connect with local community colleges and potentially other area schools, creating new avenues for students' learning and collaboration. One key benefit of this initiative is the ability for students to remain on campus while participating in dual credit or college level courses, For example, instead of spending an entire afternoon traveling to DAC or Danville Area Community College or DACC for a single course, students can attend 2 or 3 classes virtually in the same amount of time, maximizing both their learning opportunities and time management. Additionally, a mobile unit will be used to establish a virtual classroom within their new multi-purpose building. Another exciting attribute to this technology is that it would enable community residents to participate in college courses offered through DACC's Houston's Higher Learning Center without the need for traveling. Fantastic during the winter, I would say. I've done some courses over the winter and it's just fantastic. Increasing access to higher education and lifelong learning opportunities for our entire community. We're excited about MAPS creating this these virtual classroom platforms for both students and the community, and we look forward to sharing more about how these programs can well expand out in the future. We recently attended the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois nonprofit board boot camp in Champaign and heard esteemed nonprofit board members talk about ways to enhance board engagement, recruit qualified members, and onboard new members. I've been noticing that more and more grants are being directed towards nonprofit agencies in rural communities to help with initiating programs such as the Sun Meals to Go program that I announced last month in March. To help create stronger nonprofit organizations in Iroquois County, and I just talked to Amy about this, and I didn't call her yesterday, but I did talk to Maureen with United Way. So there's 2 initiatives, and Amy already talked about the her organization, which is Iroquois Mental Health Care, will be collaborating with the Community Foundation of Kankakee River Valley Foundation with the networking events called Nonprofit Leader Connection, and that'll be May 20th. And that'll be at the Iroquois Mental Health Center. And then in the future, United Way will be coming out with, so this is a little bit, I'll fix this later. So United Way will be coming out with what's called a nonprofit board boot camp. And of course, all this is coming up, it's very exciting. This is something we really do need to share with nonprofits. I've talked to, for instance, in the past, historical societies are all over Iroquois County. And they're like, how can we help? How can we bring together what we're doing? And coordinating some of the grants with their initiatives allows them to be sustainable. So that's something to think about in the future, and this is how we're going to bring people together to collaborate, plus bring in all the services that these agencies are providing. So the next boot camp, until then, for the United Way boot camp, the next boot camp for nonprofits through the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois will be in Champaign, Tuesday, May 13th. And you can go to the listed website here under events and RSVP. Support local businesses and events in Iroquois County. Rogers Media Group. Recently, the Rogers Media Group opened, and the owner, Taylor Rogers, she's ready to promote businesses in Iroquois County. I just talked to Taylor yesterday. She's super excited, and reached out to her to tell her about some resources that can help her right away. She started doing social media work while working for Nichols Paint and Fab, and over the last 3 years, she's developed skills in video editing, digital design, and web design. She also does flyers too. Her social media company is dedicated to helping businesses and individuals build their online presence. Be sure to watch one of Taylor's most recent marketing videos on her Facebook page of the Iroquois County Historical Society's beautiful new Memorial Paver Garden Walk. And it's at the Old County Museum in Watsika, and it was installed by Earthworks by Levica. Call Taylor today to help promote your business. United Way of Kankakee and Iroquois County, the Community Foundation of Kankakee River Valley, and Iroquois Federal Bank would like to invite early childhood providers, families, and local residents to the Success by 6 in Iroquois County, and it's a celebration luncheon. When is it? Tuesday, April 30th, 12 to 1:30 at the Trinity Church in Watsika. You can come out and celebrate early childhood success, enjoy a delicious free lunch, connect with local families, and learn, this is the most important thing about Success by Six, is learn about the resources that support children's growth. Fun, food, and community all in one place. Don't miss out. Register by April 28th. And I've included a flyer, and I'll include this on my email when I send out to everyone. You can email them and reserve your spot. And finally, the Fallville Community Sale is coming up on April 19th. All the proceeds from this will go back to help their community, and their community is very strong. I think last year, the county said that they need $10,000, and that's a lot of money to help with local community efforts. If you know a business opening up in Iroquois County, would like to promote events in your town, or want to sign up for notifications, please call our office at 815-432-0072. Are there any questions? Wonderful. Thank you.
So I'm not quite sure why I was called here, so.
Charlie? Down in Texas, a house being built,
Oh, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
are you able to help with that?
So I don't know a heck of a lot about that, so there is a new Congressional Medal of Honor museum that is being built in Texas. It was dedicated, I believe it was about a month or so ago. And that's where all of the Congressional Medal of Honor recipients are being honored and upheld. That's a little bit of what I know about it. I wasn't very well prepared for this.
No, I know, I'm surprised about you. The gentleman the house with is formerly from,
Iroquois County. So he is Dustin Weber. There's a home that was built by wounded warriors in Tunnels to Towers. We kind of helped facilitate that in a sense of getting all of his VA paperwork taken care of, because there was certain documentations and things like that this particular program needed and required of him. And he was not able to access those things, so we were able to help him. That house was built. So it was accessible to him because he is an amputee due to his service. Multiple, like hundreds of surgeries. They finally took his foot, pretty much told him that he was bound to a wheelchair and that he needed to stay off of that limb and the prosthetic as much as humanly possible. So the Tunnels to Towers program built that home for him to make it accessible for him and his family. It's similar to what you see on television where, you see the pull-down racks, things of that nature, accessible to wheelchair level sinks, stoves, things of that nature. We were able to help facilitate that. We had pretty much all just paperwork-wise and getting him directed in the right direction. Second of all, we hit $2 million in awards yesterday. Both in retroactive pay as well as in annual awards, and that's pretty doggone good as far as I'm concerned. And just basically doing what we need to do to help our vets.
thank you. My main concern is making sure your office appreciates the rest, and I wanted to be sure.
I absolutely, there's not a day that I don't come into work and I'm not on the phone and I'm not appreciative of the opportunity that I get to serve our veterans. I will pound this into people's brains. I love my job. It's not a job to me. I'm here to help people. I'm here to help veterans. I'm here to help spouses. I'm here to help family members. I'm here to help people that can't help themselves. And sometimes that's a bigger struggle than I can take on. But in the same sense too, I hope to God that the people that can't help themselves, kids enough to be. Just leave it at that.
Thank you, Jennifer. I
Thank
appreciate that.
And one more-
Any other outside organization reports? Sorry, move on to committee reports. First up will be the Drainage Service Committee. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, members of the county board, your committee to whom was referred management services would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the administrative center on March 31st, 2025 at 9 a.m. Members present were Kathleen Perkinson, Jamie Buck, Donna Crowe, Jed Whitlow, Roger Bard, and Scott Watts. Also present, Finance Manager Bill Johnson, Planning and Zoning Administrator Julie Feller, County Board Member John Grant. We will call the order. It was moved by Donna Crowe and seconded by Jamie Buckin to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake was not in attendance to give his monthly report. Management Chairman Perkinson will reach out to Drake for updates on the generator at the Lord and recent inspections done on the buildings. Watts noted he spoke with Drake about the existing generator and is not able to handle the work. The committee reviewed the, I'm going to refer to this as the formal name of the agreement, the assignment and assumption lease agreement from the administrative office of the Illinois courts to the office of statewide pretrial services. There were no changes to the terms of the lease. It was moved by Jed Whitlow and seconded by Watts to approve the administrative office of Illinois courts lease. Assignment and assumption to the office of statewide pretrial services. A roll call vote was taken and the motion carried. Further discussion was held on the animal control building and more. There were no updates on the animal control building. The committee requested Drake seek bids for generator for the Ward. Watts added that while discussing the matter with Drake, Drake said he's unaware of power outages in the building, and typically this area is the first half power restored. Watts provided an update on the county farm, stating that the soil testing is complete and fertilizer bid letters were sent to vendors. Sealed bids are due Friday, April 4th, and will be opened at the county board meeting Tuesday, April 8th, which is Watts said he also had a conversation with the tenant and the tile hole being repaired. There were no updates on the boardroom configuration and sound system. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Watson and seconded by Botkin to pay the claims subject to approval. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. There was no old business. During new business, Bard commented on discussions being held at the state level about doing away with township government and would like to see a resolution written up and sent to the state. The committee recommended that as a board policy and procedure committee. There's no further business to come before the committee. It was moved by Crowe and seconded by Watts to adjourn at 9:19 a.m. Motion carried. All of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its approval.
Motion on the floor, do we have a second? Mrs. Crowe, any further discussion?
Barons.
Yes.
Benz.
Yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
Ducat.
Yes.
Geiger.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Sherman. Yes. Ferguson. Watts.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
And Bakken. Yes.
Number two, we'll have to discuss and act on the 2025 fertilizer bids.
So did we approve the assignment and what the?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this saves a meeting, a separate meeting to do this here. Thank you very much for your patience, folks.
Okay, we have two bids were received. The first one is from United Prairie. And the amount of that bid is $26,390. And there's a recommendation for the phosphate and potassium that would be applied. And the second bid is from Nutrien Ag Solutions. And that total bid is $27,680. So there's a bit of a difference in the amounts recommended to be applied. Looking at that to see if there's any significance. I don't believe there is, so my recommendation would be that we accept the lower bid, which is $26,390 from United Prairie.
First, and second, discussion? Yes, Mrs. Rowe.
Which locations for United Prairie and Nutrien?
Okay, so Nutrien is Tim Talbert, and that is Sheldon Track. And United Prairie is Milton Wagner. I'm not familiar with her, that
Crescent City is a president, I think.
Is the difference in the price, did Nutrien recommend a higher amount?
So there was a difference in Nutrien had a bit higher amount of potassium than, there were differences in both the phosphate recommendations and the potassium recommendations. So this is their recommendations based on the soils testing that they received. So we have to recognize that they have looked at those soils tests and these are what they feel is appropriate.
Just in the past, we tended to go with lower amounts because it's been recommended to us that the soil won't hold excess, so it doesn't just need to try to build. So with that particular soil, we're not going to gain a lot by adding extra. We just have to do a maintenance type.
Are there any other questions?
If there's none, we'll go ahead and,
Voting on United Prairie, then, Spence,
yes.
Crowe. Yes. Ducat,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Munsterman,
Yes.
Perkinson,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Whitlow,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bakken,
Yes.
and Havens.
Yes.
Carried.
Well, thank you, everybody. Moving on to Finance IT Committee, Mr. Watts.
Mr. Chairman, members of the county board, the committee to whom was referred Finance IT was dedicated to submit the following report on the matters before them. The committee met at the administrative center on March 31st, 25 at 10 a.m. Members present: Scott Watts, Kathleen Ferguson, Jane Bakken, and Donna Crowe. Doug Geiger and Charlie Alt were absent. Also present, Finance Manager Jill Johnson, Supervisor of Assessments Mia McCammon, Myron Money with Compass Insurance, Jeff Pacer, and Adam Stewart, the Area Light Technologies and County Board Member John Grant. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Jamie Bakken and seconded by Kathleen Perkinson to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Myron Money with Compass Insurance reported the annual cyber security policy will renew in August, and applications will be received in the coming months. Susie Warden of Homestar was not in attendance, but reported via email that all affected claims from the Blue Cross Blue Shield deductible reset have been reprocessed. Division is finishing up their audit and checks will be released. Homestar had all checks suspended to prevent checks from being sent out if she died. Jeff Facer and Adam Sedoris of Area Light Technologies introduced themselves to the committee. There were no updates to report for IT. Department heads gave the monthly reports. They are as follows. Finance IT, General Lodge reported per Treasurer Kurt Albers that mobile home bills were mailed out Thursday, March 27th and are due Friday, May 30th. Finance Manager Jill Johnson reported she received an email from Clifton Larson Allen, and they will be sending draft reports and final audit adjustments for the fiscal year 2023 audit. Supervisor of Assessments, Amanda Cannon, reported that $100,000 from the GIS special funds has been invested in a certificate of deposit Prospect Bank at 3.84%. Watts addressed McCann's staffing request, stating additional staff are not in the 2025 budget. McCann said without additional staff, Middleport will not be revalued. Her staff has been working on Belmont and won't be able to work on Middleport this year. The committee discussed the fiscal year 2026 budget process and receiving information sooner. Historically, budget worksheets are distributed to department heads in June, and completed worksheets are presented at the budget hearings in July. Johnson said this timeline allows for 6 months of financial information. The committee recommended budget worksheets be sent to the department heads at the end of May, and budget hearings be held at the end of June. Cameron added she is unsure if she will have information from the Department of Revenue for the process to meet the EAV in time for budget hearings. Watts also asked the committee for assistance this year with the tax levy. The Centrica Smart Watt energy contract is passed. Watts said the project was well intentioned to save energy beginning in 2019. After reviewing the financial reports, Watts said he was curious as to whether or not the terms of the contract can be changed or renegotiated. Johnson said the terms of the contract state no additional payments can be made toward the loan until after the September 2026 payment is made. There were no updates on the Finance Committee reports. There were no Finance Chairman comments. The committee reviewed the claims. Discussion was held on the claim payable to Lyle Royster in the amount of $7,850 for both solar and battery ordinance review. Johnson said she expressed her concern with County Board Chairman Paul Duquette about the amount of money being spent on outside representation when the county employs 3 attorneys in the state's attorney's office. Johnson said she encouraged Duquette to speak with State's Attorney Mike Quinlan about the matter. It was moved by Bakken and seconded by Watts to pay the claim, subject to county board approval. The roll call vote was taken, motion carried. During old business, Crow reported she and Bakken attended 2 rural transportation meetings. Additional meetings will be attended for you. 2 providers will be allowed with show bus operating in Iroquois County and Livingston County for the first year of the agreement, and Chris operating in Fort County for the first year of the agreement. There is a possibility that Chris will also operate in southern parts of Iroquois County. Johnson discussed the financial aspect and whether the county will be responsible for any expenditures. Crowe said at this time there are no new expenditures for the county. During new business, Crowe asked for an update on the property tax bill cycle. Johnson said she believes the assessment office has rolled to the county clerk's office. Property tax bills were tentatively mailed in June with a July due date. As there was no further business coming before the committee, it was moved by Crowe and seconded by Perkinson to adjourn at 10:30 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted and move for its adoption.
All right, there's a motion on the floor, we have a second. Mr. Williams? Any further discussion?
In regards to the smart plot energy contract that we discussed, obviously this was done way prior to my time, just in the discussion we had throughout the meeting. Is this, it was aimed to save us money, are we saving money? We're halfway, not even halfway through this 15-year, or,
It was my understanding that the first 3 years, reports were generated and sent to the county. And it's also my understanding that we have not received them since. And Jill Johnson is working to get in contact with the individuals to get that information for us.
couldn't remember where we left that, okay. And second of all, the outside representation bill that was discussed in our finance meeting. I guess I'm just curious where that ends, like,
Well, I'll be having a meeting this afternoon, and we can discuss it then. Yeah, quite a few things to discuss, so.
and that meeting is this afternoon.
What?
That meeting is this afternoon.
Yes.
So as far as the energy saving, that was done under a state program where it has to save us money or it wouldn't have been allowed. And so they had to prove for a set amount of time how much the savings was. The savings would have to equal or be in excess of the yearly payment.
I think the point of the discussion at the committee was the terms are at 4 point something percent, I can't recall, 4.9 or 4.29. And the amount of interest that's being paid, we're just trying to figure out if an acceptable lump sum payment might be made perhaps, or the interest rate lowered, or just something to, the thing was well intentioned, we understand, but we just want to lower the cost of it if possible.
And there was a change in that contract at the last minute, and it slipped through, but originally we were supposed to be able to pay that off early. But then with financing, something changed, and we looked at it a couple of years into it to see if we could, and there could actually have been some money set aside someplace to go to pay that off.
I haven't seen
At least
that.
somewhat.
But what you spoke about is the reason we're looking into, the provision where you can't pay it off early, I wonder if that can be renegotiated. We're gonna look into it and see.
Yeah, I mean, they looked into it at the time and it was bid at that interest rate, and if it was any earlier than it done it, and so yeah. But there was a last minute change that we did not know was there until after the fact. And that's why, otherwise, yeah, we got to pay it off a lot.
All right, any other discussion? Second? Mrs. Grover, would you get a second? All right, would you get a second? I thought it was Mr. Williams. Let me roll call.
Rose,
Yes.
Duca.
Yep.
Geiger,
Yes.
Grant, Hughes,
Yes.
Munsterman. Yes. Ferguson. Yes. Watts,
Yes.
Whitlow,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Holt. Bucking,
Yes.
Barons,
Yes.
and Ben.
Yes. Health Committee, Mrs. Grover.
Mr. Chairman and members of the county board, your committee to whom was referred held with beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on April 1, 2025 at 9 a.m. Members present were Carl Munsterman, Hughes, Bard, and Grant. McGinnis was absent. Also present, Finance Manager Jill Johnson and ICPHD Administrator Robin Allen. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Roger Bard and seconded by Steve Peace to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Finance Manager Jill Johnson reported the registration deposit for March was $6,325. There are 4 cats and 3 dogs awaiting placement. The animal control officers closed 46 cases in March. The closed cases consisted of 4 abandoned dogs, 5 bite reports, 2 aggressive dogs, 7 well checks, 17 dogs running loose, 4 nuisance complaints, 3 injured dogs, and 2 dog-on-dog attacks. Maintenance supervisor Chris Drake was working on getting lights installed in the animal control building. The ICPHD administrator Robin Allen distributed the monthly summary report of programs. Environmental health performed 33 food sanitation inspections, issued 7 temporary food permits, performed 36 tobacco compliance inspections, and 1 body art inspection. There were 25 water sample kits given and 8 radon kits. Community health reported 1 animal bite with no required treatment. There were 9 TB tests given, 4 lead screenings, and 2 state mandated paternity screenings. Community outreach events included CPR training and a safe sitter class with 17 in attendance. Health educator Taylor Roach is working on a new STI, sexually transmitted infection program for the schools, and will be participating in Camp 911 through the schools. Roach will also be conducting a car seat safety class April 14th through April 17th. There were 12 inmates assessed at the jail. Preschool vision and hearing screenings are underway. Senior Services has been utilizing the ESS grant to purchase medical supplies. A senior social event is scheduled for May 3rd. Health Committee Chairman Don Farrell inquired on whether the Health Department has a contract with Show Us. Alan said there isn't a contract in place, we are just on their regular route. Alan provided the committee with a list of grants and their balances. Alan noted the Health Department will be losing $105,000 for the respiratory grant due to CDC cuts. Alan reported she is working on balancing the current year's budget and preparing for the fiscal year 2026 budget. It was moved by John Grant and seconded by Bard to enter into executive session at 9:13 a.m. under 5 ILCS 120/2/C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. It was moved by Hughes and seconded by Grant to come out of executive session at 9:42 a.m. Motion was carried by a voice vote. First stated 6 applicants have been selected to be forwarded to the Policy and Procedure Committee for consideration. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Hughes and seconded by Jody Munsterman to pay the claims subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. During old business, Crowe said she reviewed the animal control budget with Johnson and was provided a breakdown of revenues and expenses. A copy of the budget will be provided to the committee. There was no new business, as there was no further business to come before the committee. It was moved by Grant and seconded by Hughes to adjourn at 9:48 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted and signed by those present today.
Thank you, Mrs. Crowe. There's a motion on the floor. Can we have a second, please? Thank you. Any further discussion?
Dukenyak.
Yep.
Geiger.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Munsterman. Yes. Watts.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Williams. All votes sorry. Hawkins.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
And Crowe.
Yes.
Next zoning. Committee.
Morning, I think we're going to know each other right after this. Mr. Chairman, members of the county board, the committee to whom was referred tax zoning, we beg of you to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administration Center on April 1st, 2025 at 10:03 a.m. Members present were Doug Geiger, Kathleen Hutchinson, Steve Hughes, Roger Bard, and John Grant. Craig McGinnis is absent. Also present, county board vice chairman Scott Watts, finance manager Joe Johnson, treasurer Kurt Albers, supervisor for assessments Lee McCannon, Planning and Zoning Administrator, Julie Keller, Coroner Bill Cheatham, Jacqueline Yu with the Gourmet Strings Kitchen, LLC, Dave Griscom with Allied Renewable Energy, Danielle Peoples with Atwell, Patrick Harlan with AgroWare, LLC, Bob Jonas, Patrick Brown, Thomas Bill, Julian Bellhan, and Daniel Wilson with Scout Clean Energy, Andrew Pike with Iowa Oyster, Walker, and Allen, and County Board Member Donald Crowe. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Kathleen Ferguson and seconded by Steve Hughes to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by John Grant, seconded by Ferguson to pay the claims, subject to the county board approval. The roll call vote was taken. The motion carried. The department heads gave their monthly reports. Treasurer Kurt Alberts reported approximately 355 mobile home bills were mailed out last week and are due May 30th. Supervisor assessments, Neil McKinnon, reported on March 28th, one was received from the Department of Revenue for the final abstract. McKinnon explained we will not see a multiplier from the state on the tax bills. Internally, the county clerk's office can begin the extension before rolling to the treasurer's office. McCammon attended the IPAI state conference recently and was sworn in and elected as secretary of the IAAO, International Association of Assessing Officers. Road assessors Jim Sherrill and Jackie Martinez were contracted to handle Artesia, Argent, and Ridgeland townships. Dan Schultz has been contracted to handle Douglas Township. There are still vacancies for the Belmont and Middleport townships. Both townships have quadrennial assessments this year. McCammon said she anticipates her office being able to complete the Belmont, but not being able to complete the Middleport without additional staff. McCammon's invested $100,000 from the GIS fund account into his certificate of deposit. Lastly, the new GIS aerial imagery is available on the county website. Planning and Zoning Administrator Julie Keller reported that she has been working on getting the zoning layer added to GIS. Last month, the Keller discussed ATF Houston license, trigger license in the county. Keller learned that if the applicant is asking for carriage coding, they will need to apply for a conditional use permit. Keller attended the Illinois Association of Floodplains and Stormwater Conference on March 11th and 12th. The maximum occupancy for this room has been issued at Humlin County Board Room. Keller received Dan Raymond's letter of resignation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This will allow County Board Chairman Paul Ducat to appoint a new member at the County Board meeting. The Renewable Energy Bank account has been created. Keller said that she has had conversations regarding dilapidated and overgrown property, which is in violation of property maintenance code instituted last summer. Keller sent a letter to the property owners requesting their compliance. Additional property in Beaverville was also brought to our attention. Keller will also speak with State Attorney Mike Fleming about fines and fees. That can be a second. Former Bill Cheatham addressed the county trustee committee last month regarding the request received to bury a family member in the family farm. Cheatham's research found that there have been no state laws on the matter and that the county needs to make yes or no decision to move forward with these burials. If the county chooses to say yes, then exempt family burial ground will need to be registered with the Illinois Office of the State Controller. The family will need to provide documentation that they own said land, and the county will issue a letter stating we do allow the private burial on private land. From there, and the application is sent to the family to be returned to the Illinois State Controller's Office and the Illinois Department of Professional Regulations. The committee stated that they are in favor of the private burials, but believe the legal opinions need to be investigated to move forward. Cheatham and Geiger will work together at looking at the matter further and report back to the committee. Finance Manager Joe Johnson stated their personal opinion is not to move forward due to the possible increased time, increased manpower and liability. Ferguson clarified that the committee would be handling the matter without the need of outside counsel. The committee reviewed the monthly resolution list showing the
parcel sold by a county trustee. The parcel is an empty lot located in North Second Street in Watsika. It was moved by Parkinson and seconded by Grant to approve the resolution for this parcel sold through the building tax process. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. Tax planning and zoning chairman Doug Geiger requested County Clerk Darren Suber to provide the committee with the address of the parcel sold prior to the meeting. Discussion was held on a letter received from the Department of Agriculture regarding the county's decision to hold a public hearing for the Earl Inland Swine Facility. The deadline to respond is April 10th. Roger Bard voiced his opinion that he is not in favor of holding a public hearing. Keller added that immediate property owners are notified via certified mail. Also, if 75 or more of the county residents who are registered voters in the county petition the county board, then the county board shall request an informational meeting. Geiger asked the committee to make a motion to request a public hearing. No motion was made. Geiger introduced Andrew Pike and Kyle Royster, Butler, and Allen to the committee. Kyle Royster was retained by State's Attorney Mike Clinton to help the committee with the process of adopting the solar, wind, and battery ordinances. Kyle explained the process of a text amendment stating the county ordinance has a code of ordinances in place and an established zoning board of appeals. Kite said that he'd been working with Geiger on creating draft ordinances for the county board to consider. Tax planning and zoning committee will make a recommendation to the county board on whether to move forward with the text amendment process for the three ordinances. From there, the county board will make a resolution to apply for the text amendment and submit an application to the planning and zoning office to amend the ordinance. The zoning board of appeals will hold a public hearing and publish the information. The recommendation will be made to the county board, and the county board will make their decision to adopt the ordinances or send the ordinances back to the zoning board of appeals. Kite began reviewing the ordinances as follows. We compared the ordinances that we had at our last meeting. Now they're headed to. So, on page 9, the application fees are saying any unused fee shall be reimbursed to the applicant upon issuance of the building permit for 180 days after the county board, which is later. The applicant may apply the unused conditional use permit application fees towards the building permit fee. On page 10, review the application requirements. On page 13, the facility owner must enter into an agricultural impact mitigation agreement with the Department of Agriculture and participating property owners prior to the date of the public hearing on the conditional use application. The application acceptance on page 14, the application filing date shall be the date on which the county determines the application is complete. On pages 15 and 16, we review the setbacks. On page 16, we review the loan, review the road use agreements. Page 18, review the landscaping plan. A living buffer of evergreen trees must be planted and maintained during construction. An alternative buffer may be also considered. On page 23, review the noise levels and inspections. Page 24, review the decommissioning plan. Decommissioning financial assurances shall be compliant with the agricultural impact mitigation agreement, and the decommissioning agreement must be approved by the county board. Page 25, review the defaults and remedies. Page 27 and 28, review the factors for consideration. On the wind ordinance, on page 10, we reviewed the application fees prior to processing any conditional use permit application for the CWPF. The applicant must submit a cashier's check or electronic funds made payable to the county for the conditional use permit. Application equal to $5,000 per megawatt of proposed nameplate generating capacity up to a maximum of $250,000. Page 14, reviewed in coordination with local fire departments. Page 14 also reviewed the use agreements, and on 17, reviewed interference. Page 19, reviewed the shadow flicker. Shadow flicker shall not affect any occupied community building or non-participating residents more than 30 hours per year under the planned operating conditions. Page 19, reviewed the lighting. The applicant shall apply for the aircraft detection lighting system or other similar technology reduce light pollution and visual impacts caused by the CWF. If approved by the relevant federal authorities, the applicant shall install the APLS system and operate said system during the duration of the project, except such time necessary for testing and repairs of the APLS. Page 21, reviewed the power and communications lines. Julie shall be contacted before commencing any excavation for digging. Page 25 is reviewing the decommissioning plans. 26, reviewed the insurance requirements. And page 27, reviewed the defaults and remedies. On the battery ordinance, on page 6, we reviewed the battery ordinance energy system, tier 1 PES. That has an aggregate energy capacity less than or equal to 600 kilowatts. And if in a room or enclosed area consists of only a single BESS unit, is the definition. Tier 2 is a BESS that has an aggregate energy capacity greater than 600 kilowatts or is comprised of more than one BESS unit for the primary purpose of storing electricity for wholesale and retail sale. Page 13, reviewed coordination with local fire departments. And then we also discussed the decommissioning agreement and road use agreement on Stone Road that are similar to the wind and solar ordinances. I'd explained that the goal is to have the ordinance in place by May 13th. If an application is submitted prior to May 13th, there is provisions within the county's existing ordinances to address it as a conditional use and impose the necessary conditions. It is moved by Hughes and seconded by Grant to recommend the county board apply for the next amendment in accordance with the language reflected in the draft of the solar ordinance. The roll call vote was taken and motion carried. It is moved by Bard and seconded by Hughes to recommend to the county board apply for the text amendment in accordance with the language reflected in the draft wind ordinance. The roll call was taken, motion carried. It is moved by Grant and seconded by Hughes to recommend the county board apply for the text amendment in accordance with the language reflected in the battery ordinance. The roll call was taken, motion carried. An update was provided on the floodplain ordinance violation. Marion has communicated with our attorneys and it is in the hands of our attorneys and engineers on how to move forward. Geiger will continue to provide the committee with floodplains. During the tax planning committee, zoning chairman comments, Geiger stated more inspectors would need to be hired to handle the upcoming projects and asked the committee to think of local experts that would be interested. During old business, Jacqueline Yu of the Gourmet Friends Kitchen LLC informed the committee she received a letter from the Illinois Department of Agriculture stating the conditional approval for a grant of inspection had been extended for additional 90 days. There was no new business. As there was no further business to come before the committee, moved by Grant, seconded by Hughes to adjourn at 12:25 p.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. All of which is submitted in a move for the
All right, there's a motion on the floor, do we have a second? Do we have any further discussion?
There's one. On the second page, the bullet, Bill Cheatham, the family of Furious. Third line, there are no state laws on the matter and the county needs to make the yes or no decision. Well, if there's no state law and there's no county law, the county doesn't have to say yes or no. I believe the family should be just left alone and let them do what they do. And if there are no laws, there are no state laws, no county laws, how can we say that they must provide documentation sent to the controller's office in the Illinois Department of Professional Regulations if there are no laws on this particular matter? I think just because something comes before a committee doesn't mean we need to get involved. Sometimes I think we should just butt out, and I think this is one of those times. That's my point.
That's a good point. I understood the point. But the question came up is with, I think the sheriff will attest that down the road, a property is excavated and bones show up without any record of the bones, then,
So we're gonna invent problems for the future.
well, we're trying to stop problems from,
Well,
All we're asking to do, I think, was the goal was to just have the family register at this exact point, we buried a body.
My point is, it's the family's business, and not this committee's and not towns, and not the states. That's it.
Are any other further discussion? Mr. Perkins?
To that point, Scott, it was my understanding that there is a state regulation that can be followed, and what we should simply be doing is referring families to that state process that they can go through, but that we're not involved any further than that. Which I think is a long time from where we started this conversation of trying to come up with something that we locally would administer. I think now what we're saying is we've discovered the state process. If you can go through the state process, God bless you, but we're not involved in.
So basically, we're giving them an option, but we can let the family do what they need to do, if they decide to do that.
The state process does not sound simple.
Never is with the state. That's, we can all agree with that, that's. Go ahead, Mrs. Brown.
There is an act bringing, I don't recall the name of the act, bringing you.
There are so many acts regarding burials and cemeteries and whatnot. I know I've spoken twice about them, and I've misspoken because the one that goes through the Comptroller's Act is different than the two that I've spoken on as far as there are several acts that refer to burials and what happens if bodies are found not in the actual cemetery or burial site, which is what Doug was referring to with something happening or that sort of thing. So I don't really want to say what act it is because I'm going to say it wrong.
There's a bunch of it.
There are.
And they probably conflict.
I don't think that they conflict. They address different scenarios, yes. But the filing through the Comptroller's office, that's definitely something that is a state regulated.
Mr. Quinlan, would you have to go offhand?
I have no idea. I do not possess the power of omniscience.
Go ahead, Mr. Barron.
So, how small property you have is very on there. And people in subdivisions in the county then start burying their loved ones in the backyard.
No, I haven't looked at this for at least a month, so for me to speak on it would be like I'd be leading you in the wrong direction. I do know that there are family burial plots that can be registered with the Comptroller's office. It can be 1 to 15 burial plots, and it has to be specified where those are at and what the cemetery is considered.
Yeah, basically, when it says there are no state regulations, that is incorrect. There are state regulations.
I believe that there are state regulations regarding the burial of human remains on a particular parcel, but I don't know what the exact regulation is. I mean, I can't speak on it because I haven't looked at it for a while.
There are rules if it's a commercial business or a not-for-profit business. If you look at the history of Illinois and other places, and the migration trail west, people were placed with rocks over it, you couldn't dig them down. Our family's had farms since the 1840s, and it's often burials on because that's what they're. This is not a really big issue that can take, if we're gonna put the body and put a fabrication thing in it, it's still low. And we're doing much about little, because it acts a lot about commercial cemeteries, not
all of them. Not all of them are.
Any other comments? Back in, Mrs. Crowe, you're up.
Not on, are we done with the burial discussion? Please, I want to.
Yeah, let me forward that for you. Let's look at the clock.
Good one. I have two questions briefly. Are we including our county engineer in the road use part of the agreements?
He's entirely responsible, involved with that, the county board is.
Good, good, good. And moving on to the situation with Ameren, it doesn't say in the minutes what the update was. Can you briefly tell us where we are?
Yep, date, that the attorneys got in Champaign came in on the 31st of March, Friday evening. And they tried to scramble, but couldn't. They had, there was several points that concerned them that Ameren had suggested this is the fix. We got the engineer involved with determining, the issue is they brought in the land for the spill and something needs to be done to rectify the amount of fill they brought in. The obvious thing is to dig a hole. How big a hole do you need to dig? And secondly is what happens when the hole fills with water if you don't have a drain on the pond? And so all the details need to be worked out. And so the attorney and the engineers are coming up with opinions for a reply back or response back to Ameren. They're including us in that proposed response. And we're just waiting for back from them.
Also, Mrs. Crowe to help Mr. Gordon Robbins for watching this stuff forward and also helping this process and hopefully moving along a little faster. Because as you know, as it drags on, it's more expensive. We're trying to cut all costs for the county, but still protect the county at the same time. Mrs. Ferguson.
So I have a comment on the renewable ordinances. I think an important point that the attorney who was here made to us that didn't get reflected in the minutes that I really believe should be reflected in the minutes is that the reason we're having this discussion with him was because there was the statutes that were enacted by the state in 2023 established standards for reviews of renewable projects. And county boards cannot be more restrictive than those state statutes, which effectively takes local control out of the equation. So we're mandated by the state to have standards that we can't be more restrictive for. So I think it's important to note that in our minutes, that's why we're having this discussion and why we're backpedaling quite a bit from the ordinances that we've been looking at for the last 6 months. I would say that they're watered down, but they're watered down the way the state is mandating that they be watered down. And that's a point I have is, if the state can take away local control and the federal government take away state control of renewables, and then are we, is there anything we can do about state control of what's going on in our communities to give us more say on what we have here?
It does, and when I ran the tax department, the Constitution states the states take care of the state, the county takes care of the county. I do think certain things need to stay the way they were. And we need to stand up because they don't care about the people here for the county. They care about the pocketbook. Our governor was in Mexico last week. He obviously doesn't care about that. He's talking to the illegals, but I want to get back in there. He's running around wanting to be president. He's not wanting to take care of his own state. He's sloppy, he's a mess. Plain and simple. So I believe the state constitution says the states take care of the state, the county takes care of the county. And we keep the fight up and we do what we have to do. If there's something we have to follow that we do believe that would become a problem, we do what we have to do, but at the same time, we need to take a stand. So, thank you, everybody. Is there any further discussion?
I think Kathy brings up a good point, excuse me, I think Kathy brings up a good point that was overlooked in minute taking. It's, Andrew did make that point, why we're there.
All right, we'll be, voting on A, B, C, and D.
Another county.
Okay, one once again, and then 2, 3, 4 will be separate. Julie, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question and a comment. A motion was not given in regard to the Department of Ag and sending a letter. But I have drafted a letter and Paul has signed it. So I guess my question is, are we sending this letter and the board wants to request an additional information meeting or not?
Yeah, I plan on sending it. That's why I signed it. That was not in the reading at all?
You said there was no motion made.
Yeah, there was no motion made. That's why I'm questioning if we should be sending this because the motion was not made.
I want that set.
Okay.
I want to find what's going on. Yeah, the one from the here, if you want to read it out
I
loud.
was gonna say, would you like me to read? It's pretty basic standard. It's Illinois Department of Agriculture, Brad Beaver, Bureau Chief. Dear Mr. Beaver, the Iroquois County requests that the Illinois Department of Agriculture conduct an informational meeting concerning the proposed construction of a livestock management facility by Earl Lehman of the Thawville area in the Richland Township of Iroquois County. If you need additional information, please feel free to contact our executive assistant, Amanda Longfellow, at our phone number, sincerely, Paul DeCat.
Ms. Doctor?
So obviously, this is not the first swine facility that has been built in Iroquois County within the last
Correct.
couple of years. So have public hearings been held for those?
So we held one, and then we didn't hold the other ones because it's state mandated. There's nothing we can do about it. They can come in and complain and be mad about it. If we can hear it, but there's nothing we can do. It's state mandated. With this, at least we can get more information on it, and they can actually do a checking up on it for us to let us know that it is good to go. Correct?
And this is in addition to an existing facility also, but the size of the expansion qualifies it as a new facility.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, I mean, that's all I'm asking. It is different. All right, so we will not be voting on that, but I will be sending that down to Illinois Department of Ag.
We're just voting on the tax and zoning report, which is going to approve the resolution for the sale of property and going. B, C, and D are requesting the text amendments, but we're going to talk about the text amendments in separate resolutions after we approve the committee report, if that makes sense to everyone. So we are approving the sale of the property resolution, pretty much a standard one. And then we go into talking about the renewal and the ordinance.
Please.
Okay. Geiger,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Westerman, Parkinson,
Yes.
Watts, Whitlow,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bakken,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Benz,
Yes.
Joe, yes, and Jim Cat.
Yes.
Next, we will have discussion and action on the resolution requesting a zoning text amendment to adopt a commercial solar energy facility ordinance in Iroquois County.
Motion?
So we're asking for a motion.
Well, Mr. Grant, Mr. Hughes, first and second. Any further discussion?
Do you want to read it, or are you okay with everybody?
Mr. Crowell, you tell me. I see you back there.
Take a minute. Okay. Resolution number,
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go back to what you just said. The state, it's a state, the county is the county. So if that's how we're gonna operate, why are we going backwards and spending money that wasn't budgeted for, if that's the mentality we're having here? Unless I'm confused on something, when you're saying, because are we backtracking here because the state changed?
There are certain rules in there that I may have done myself with Doug that was too strong, and we were gonna lose no matter what. So that's why they've changed them, and hopefully, what I've read, the other ones stay in their stuff.
So where we're
importantly
at.
though, the process wasn't followed by the state for us to do anything with ordinances that have to do with land. Then we need to get involved with public hearings, and that process wasn't followed. And so it was brought out to us by Attorney up in the Pontiac area that the ordinances that we did adopt weren't adopted properly or legally.
So I would just add to that, that even though all of this is mandated by the state, that we have, where we've been able to, we have implemented some procedures that I think will be good for us, and that we're doing, I think we're going to do a good job with what we've been mandated to do.
Or allowed to do. Or allowed to do.
Right, allowed to do, right, that's correct. So I think the committee has worked hard to make sure that where there are opportunities for protections, that we are taking advantage of those opportunities for protections for the county and its residents.
And we want to protect the county and the safety of our citizens. That's the bottom line.
And if we don't adopt these, we will have applications that would have the state regulations imposed on us without any of those extra protections we've given us that we're looking for in these ordinances.
And it looks like we'll be able to recoup our money going forward by all the dollar amounts of building permit fees that looks like might be coming our way, so. Vote for the budget.
Any further discussion?
Were you gonna read it, or are you
Happy to.
confused on what we're
Yes,
doing?
go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Resolution number R 2025, to be named later, Iroquois County, Illinois. Resolution requesting a zoning text amendment to adopt a commercial solar energy facility ordinance in Iroquois County, Illinois. Whereas Iroquois County, the county, desires to regulate commercial energy facilities within its borders, and whereas on January 27, 2023, the state of Illinois passed legislation and Governor Pritzker signed into law 55 ILCS 5/5-12020, which governs the siting of commercial solar facilities in Illinois. And whereas the county has an interest in complying with the statutory requirements and ensuring the continued protection of the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Now therefore be resolved by the county, following review, consideration, discussion, the county requests a zoning text amendment to its zoning ordinances. With bold amendments attached herein to its Exhibit A. amending its ordinance in accordance with the statutory requirements of the ensure the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, and to amend those areas of the zoning ordinance that otherwise refer to conditional use to include commercial solar energy facilities as a conditional use in agricultural zone areas of the county. Be it further resolved that the county hereby instructs the zoning board of appeals of the county to conduct public hearings to gather information relating to the passage of such ordinances. It goes on to say it's passed, hopefully today.
Any further discussion?
Grant.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Munsterman. Ferguson. Yes. Watts.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Alt. Bogdan.
No.
Barron. Benz.
No.
Crowe.
Yes.
Ducat.
Yes.
Geiger.
Yes. We'd like to have discussion and action on the resolution requesting a zoning text amendment to adopt a commercial wind energy facility ordinance in Iroquois County, Illinois.
Okay, one quick comment. By doing this, the county is showing it's keeping an active interest in it rather than abandoning any active activity, which may become important in the future if the state statute get overturned. So it's good from a legal standpoint, and good to them to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Do I have a motion to, resolution? Grant, do I have a second? Mr. Hughes? Further discussion? Go ahead and read it.
Resolution requesting a zoning text amendment to adopt a commercial wind energy facility ordinance in Iroquois County, Illinois. Whereas Iroquois County desires to regulate commercial energy facilities within its borders, whereas on January 27, 2023, the state of Illinois passed legislation and Governor Pritzker signed into law 55 ILCS 5/5-12020, which governs the siting of commercial wind facilities in Illinois. And whereas the county has an interest in complying with said statutory requirements and ensuring the continued protection of health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Now therefore be resolved by the county, following review, consideration, discussion of the county request, a zoning text amendment to its zoning ordinances with proposed amendment passed hereto as Exhibit A, amending its ordinances in accordance with the statutory requirements and ensure the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, and to amend those areas of the zoning ordinance that otherwise refer to conditional use to include commercial wind energy facilities as a conditional use in agricultural zone areas of the county. Be it further resolved, the county hereby instructs the zoning board of appeals of the county to conduct public hearings to gather information relating to the passage of such ordinances.
After reading, do we have any other further discussion?
Okay, so this is for the wind energy. Hughes.
Yes.
Munsterman. No. Ferguson.
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Bogdan.
No.
Barron's.
Yes.
Benz. Crowe.
Yes.
Ducat.
Yes.
Geiger.
Yes.
And Grant.
Yes.
Next, we'd like to have discussion and action on the resolution requesting a zoning text amendment to adopt a battery energy storage facility ordinance in Iroquois County.
Motion. Mr. Hughes, for a second, Mr. Williams. Go ahead and read it.
Resolution requesting a zoning text amendment to adopt a battery energy storage facility ordinance in Iroquois County, Illinois. Whereas Iroquois County desires to regulate battery energy storage facilities within its borders, and whereas the county's power conveyed in Division 12 of the Illinois County Code empowers the county to regulate such facilities, and whereas the county has an interest in complying with the said statutory requirements and ensuring the continued protection of the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Now therefore, be it resolved by the county, following review, consideration, and discussion, the county requests a zoning text amendment to its zoning ordinance. The proposed amendment attached hereto as Exhibit A, amending its ordinances in accordance with the statutory requirements to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, and to amend those areas of the zoning ordinance that otherwise refer to as traditional uses to include battery storage, energy storage facilities as a conditional use in agriculturally zoned areas of the county. Be it further resolved, the county hereby instructs the zoning board of appeals of the county to conduct public hearings to gather information relating to the passage of such ordinances.
Further discussion?
Munsterman. Parkinson.
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
Whitlow.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Alt.
No.
Bucket.
No.
Barons.
Yes.
Spence.
No.
Crowe.
Yes.
Ducat.
Yes.
Geiger.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Sorry,
Congressional Public Safety Committee. Mr. Whitlow.
Mr. Chairman, members of the county board. The committee to whom it is for judicial and public safety is begged to submit the following report to the matters before them. The committee met courthouse on April 2nd, 2025 at 3 p.m. Members present were Whitlow, Williams, and Barron. Mitchell Bentz and Chadwick Innes were absent. Also present, County Board Vice Chairman Scott Watts, Plant Lee, Coroner Bill Cheatham, Probation Supervisor Barb King, and Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Raven Williams and seconded by Lyle Behrens to approve the agenda. Motion carried by voice vote. There were no public comments. Sheriff Clint Lee presented his monthly report to the committee as follows. Debbie Norton will be graduating from the CPI Academy on April 24th. Deputy Julio attended a drug interdiction training recently after making several self-initiated / proactive drug arrests. Correctional Officer Anderson will attend the 8-week Corrections Academy beginning April 6th. Equipment installation of 2 squad cars complete. Arrests / intakes 63, 44 male, 18 female, 1 juvenile. Male population as of March 31st, 2025, 27. 22 male, 5 female. Daily population average 20.71. Coroner Bill Cheatham reported the Illinois Coroners and Medical Examiners Association updated the mutual aid agreement. It was moved by Williams and seconded by Barron to approve the Illinois Coroner and Medical Examiner Association mutual aid agreement. Motion carried by the vote vote. Probation Supervisor Barb King reviewed the probation and court services activity report for March. King also reported that Judge Jared Bartucci included the probation department in a technology grant in the state of Illinois, which allowed the purchase of a new server, 2 workstations, a laptop, and a new printer. Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines distributed her monthly report for March to the committee for review. A total of $42,952.92 was received in fines and fees. $6,113.10 was received and paid for, and $937.75 received from iDrop. Hines also reported that she has hired Agaware LLC to create 67 drainage district boundary map for her office at a cost of $14,750. This will be paid for by Hines Automation Fund. Circuit Clerk's Office received a technology grant in the amount of $22,000 to pay for online backups and maintenance contracts. The ETSB report was distributed for review. Committee reviewed claims. Additional claims were submitted by Cheatham and Brzee. It was moved by Graham and seconded by Williams. Paid of judicial and public safety claims, including additional claims by Cheatham and Brzee, subject to county board approval. Roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. There was no old business. There was no new business. As there was no further business to come before the committee, we move by Williams, seconded by Williams, to adjourn the meeting at 3:16 p.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. All was respectfully submitted, signed by members present. I would move for its adoption.
Motion on the floor to accept. Hughes. Any further discussion? Williams.
On the coroner's, mutual aid agreement, state's attorney, did you get a chance to review yet? Or I think it's supposed to ask you to review that.
I took this agreement over to Myron Bunyan to have them look at it, and the underwriters, and it's standard procedure, there's no additional cost to the county, so I don't think that there's an issue with this coroner's mutual aid agreement.
So
I believe we also have one in place.
I just worry about the, on page 4, which is in section 3, about the liability health insurance.
The biggest thing on that is, say we go, our corner goes to Kankakee, there's a big wreck up there or something, so everybody comes to mutual aid. Each individual, like our corner, would have his own insurance. I mean, it's by our insurance. We don't, where we go, they don't.
Sometimes insurance has limitations. I just want to make sure we're covered.
Yeah, we're covered.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Ferguson. Watts.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yep.
Williams. Holt. Crockett.
Yes.
Barons.
Yes.
Bent.
Yes.
Crowe. Yes. Hukat.
Yep.
Graver.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
And Munsterman.
Thank you, Mr. Whitlow.
Hey, Ralph, did you get motion on the separate?
No, that's actually, it's all one.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Transportation and Highway Committee, Ralph. The phone goes off, you gotta do it, Dan. You guys-
You don't. I might call you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the county board, your committee to whom was referred transportation and highway debate need to submit the following report on matters before that. Your committee met at the Iroquois County Highway Building on April 3, 2025 at 9 a.m. Members present were all Munsterman, Williams, and Hughes. This was absent, also present county engineer, Doug County Board Chairman Paul Kapat and Carl Gervich, WGFA. Meeting was called to order. It was moved by Steve Hughes and seconded by Rick Williams to approve the agenda. Motion carried by his voice vote. During the public comments, Judy Munsterman reported she was in the Dales Lake area and took pictures of the bridge or accident occurred last December. Munsterman offered to forward the pictures to committee members. The claims and financial reports for the month were reviewed. It was moved by Williams and seconded by Hughes to pay the bill subject to county board approval. A roll call vote. Vote was taken, motion carried. During new business, Assistant County Engineer Doug discussed the state letting held on March 7th. Hutzel said 3 bids were received. This was the third letting it for the bid north west of Citizens Park. It was moved by Hughes, seconded by Williams to approve the Iroquois County paving bids in the amount of $785,132.40. With item 127, the state levy held on March 7th, 2025. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. That's all for the last two bids that we received at the March 7th state study. And the bid on cable line will note that last week the work is reflected during the summer months to avoid school bus traffic. And the new bike put the second by used to approve the Iroquois County paving bid in the amount of $1,179,350.99. Or item 128 from the state, letting held on March 7th, 2025. A roll call vote mistake and motion carried. Joint funding agreement and resolution for resurfacing CH4, parentheses 21-00316-00-RS and a parentheses was discussed. Letting will be held in Springfield in June, thus all stated. 80% is paid to the federal fund, to approve by Hughes and second by Vince to approve the joint funding agreement and resolution pursuant to HH4, parentheses 21-00316-00-RS and the parentheses. The roll call was taken, motion carried. Lastly, let's all report that county engineer Alan Harwood was contacted by a farmer requesting a file pursuant to their property when the spring fall posting was in effect. The farmer responded that the roads were closed at a particular week and the bid was abided by this. At a later date, it was reported that others were hauling during this period. These individuals were contacted about the roadway edit. There was no old business. As there was no other business to come before the committee was moved by Williams, the second, they used the term committee at 9:33 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. All of which was recommended by ask for the acceptance of this report.
There's a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? For Williams. Now this will be for 1, A, B, and C for all those motions. So there's no further discussion.
Watts?
Yes.
Gilbo?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Alt?
Yes.
Bakken?
Yes.
Barron?
Yeah.
Ben?
Yes.
Crowe? Yes. Dupas?
Yes.
Geiger?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Hughes? Westerman? And Perkinson?
Policy and procedure.
Mr. Chairman, members of the county board or committee to whom was referred policy and procedure with that week to submit the following report on the matter before them. Committee met the administrator on April 3rd, 2025 at 10:03 a.m. Members present, County Board Chairman Paul Buchanan, Scott Watts, Clint Geiger, Donna Crowe, Kathleen Perkins, Charlie Alt, Jed Whitmer. Also present, Finance Manager Jim Johnson, County Clerk Rita Super, Planning and Zoning Administrator Judy Feller, EMA Director Scott Anderson, IEDA DA Director Angel Crawford, Carl Burbidge with WPFA, Pete Jaglinski with Houston Recovery Services, and County Board Member Jamie Bach. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Donna Crowe, seconded by Doug Geiger to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. During public comments, Pete Jaglinski with Addiction Recovery Services thanked the 708 Mental Health Board for allowing them to offer free services to the community. The committee asked Mr. Jaglinski to provide statistics for the program at a later date. EMA Director Scott Anderson reported he has been very active as there have been several severe weather incidents in the past couple of weeks. Following today's meeting, Anderson will be meeting with the National Weather Service Storm Team Survey Team in Lona in regards to what was believed to be an EF1 tornado in the Lona area. Anderson addressed the matter of ICOM not activating sirens based on the National Weather Service tornado warnings. Anderson said he was contacted about the sirens not being activated and immediately contacted ICOM to authorize the activation. However, at the time the siren was activated, it was too late, and this is unacceptable as people's lives were put in danger. Anderson asked the county board for support as he will be issuing a directive to ICOM about the procedures in place. A HyperReach subscription was also discussed, and Anderson will be reposting the link to subscribe. Lastly, Anderson reported on the new administrative rule passed through legislation in regards to EMA and the new way to prepare our emergency operations plan. The new due date is June 2026, and Anderson has already begun the work. Committee chairs gave their monthly reports. Finance Chair Watts reported the committee discussed moving up the timeline for fiscal year 2026 budget hearing process. Budget worksheets will be sent to department heads at the end of May, with budget hearings being held at the end of June. The committee also discussed the Smart Watt contract and learned that additional payments can't be made until after the September 2026 payment. Management Chairman Kathleen Perkins reported the committee will be receiving quotes for a generator at the morgue. County farm soil tests are complete. Fertilizer bids are due April 4th at 4 p.m. Adam Sidoris and Jeff Baser with Area Line will be handling the county's IT account. Judicial Chairman Judd Lidlow reported the 911 Center has a vacancy and interviews are ongoing. Deputy Norton will graduate from the Police Academy on April 24th. Equipment on new squads has been installed. The committee received reports from the department heads. Highway Chairman Charlie Alt reported the committee reviewed their regular reports and approved claims. The committee also took action on bridge lettings. Tax Planning and Zoning Chairman Doug Geiger reported the committee took action on a Parsonsville delinquent tax process. A notice from the Department of Agriculture was received pertaining to a public hearing for a swine facility. Andrew Kite, the title minister, reviewed solar, wind, and battery ordinances with the committee, and the committee took action on the approval process. An update was received on the floodplain ordinance violation. The new zoning board of appeals appointment will be made at the board meeting on Tuesday. Resolutions for the solar, wind, and battery ordinances will be in place for the board meeting with a published hearing to be held May 5th at 1 p.m. Health Chairman Donna Crowe gave the committee an update on rural transportation, stating she and Jamie Bakken attended 2 meetings. Another meeting is scheduled for April 18th, 9:30 a.m. Monty Andrews has been hired as the peacock. We'll discuss inviting other agencies within the building to attend, such as the Health Department, Volunteer Services, Workforce Development, and Veterans Assistance. Quarterly meetings will be held in May, August, and November. During the meetings, Crowe attended, discussion was held on allowing 2 providers to provide service to the county. Crowe added that show bus has concerns about proposed budget cuts. Also, the show bus fleet is in terrible condition. The current agreement with McLean County is in place until June 30th. The Health Committee received reports from the Health Department and Animal Control. The committee also discussed the hiring of an Animal Control Administrator and reviewed resumes during executive session. There were no chairman comments. It was moved by Crowe and seconded by Whitlow to move into executive session at 10:50 a.m. under 5 ILCS 120/2/C1. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. Motion carried by voice vote. It was moved by Crowe and seconded by Geiger to come out of executive session at 11:04 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. It was moved by Crowe and seconded by Perkins to proceed to schedule interviews for the 6 selected applicants reviewed in the executive session. Motion carried by a voice vote. Appointments will be made at the county board meeting. Correspondence was distributed to the committee for review. The committee reviewed the claim. It was moved by Whitlow, seconded by Geiger to pay the claim, subject to county board approval. The roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. There was no old business. During new business, UCAT requested IEDA Director Angel Crawford to provide Anderson with a listing of all mayors and their contact information. As there was no further business coming before the committee, it was moved by Watts and seconded by Crowe to adjourn the meeting at 11:08 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted by the business adoption.
Motion on the floor, you have a second? Mrs. Dawkins? Any further discussion? Mrs. Scruggs?
Yeah, on page 2, where it talks about going into executive session, coming out, we need to state that that's for animal control. It doesn't say why we're doing interviews or somewhere that needs to be identified as for animal control.
Okay, so for the paragraph after going in,
Yeah. It was moved by, I guess in the third paragraph, proceed to schedule interviews for the 6 applicants for the animal control position.
Okay.
Covers it.
so the sentence could read specifically to consider employment applications for animal control. Very good.
Any further discussion?
Whitlow,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bakken,
Yes.
Barron.
Yeah.
Smith,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
Ducat.
Yep.
Geiger,
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Munsterman. Ferguson. Watts.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve the appointments? Mr. Geiger, can I get a second? Mr. Williams? Any further discussion on the appointments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes. HSC and the information only. I've appointed Jamie Bakken to the Transportation and Highway Committee also. Moving on, to approve claims, we have a motion. Mr. Geiger, second, Mr. Grant. Questions, comments? Roll call vote.
Williams,
Yes.
Alt, Bakken,
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Bench,
Yes.
Crowe. Yes. Ducat,
Yes.
Geiger. Geiger,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Munsterman, Ferguson.
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
and Whitlow.
Yes.
Carried.
Any old business? Yes, Mrs. Ruff.
2 things. One, we didn't have an EPSB report, and we can just never have enough reports to it. And number 2, I haven't seen one of the revenue reports that we get, sales tax, income tax, and the other various taxes that we receive. And I think that's especially important for us to be up to date and in light of the fact that we're gonna start our budget hearings in June, because we can't give anybody any money unless we know how much money we have.
Correct. Anything else? Anyone? Bueller? All right, moving on, we got old business with Scott Anderson.
Morning, everybody. It's been a long meeting. I'll try to make this as brief as I can, but this is works. You all heard during the PMP meeting, I brought up the fact that I was going to assist the National Weather Service in damage survey down in the Lona area. We did confirm an EF1 tornado that did more than $3 million worth of damage to the hog farm, which was down there, but we also discovered a second tornado that was on the ground just outside of the city limits of Cissna Park. It is an EF0 tornado, but again, we had another tornado on the ground from that same storm. Just to give you some brief stats that I've received from the National Weather Service, since 1996, so we're doing 30 years worth of reports, we've had 22 confirmed tornadoes on the ground in Iroquois County. It's not a lot, but the numbers have increased. In the last 15 years, 15 of those tornadoes have touched down. So again, the numbers are going up. We're getting a lot busier. The problem that we ended up having, as pointed out in the PMP meeting, was the sirens that were activated late. The policy that's in place right now is actually in opposition to what is our county emergency operations plan. The notification that was issued by the National Weather Service had to have secondary authorization through me. That should not be the case. They shouldn't have to call me and to give them authorization to sound sirens. The National Weather Service should be an authorizing agency, and they should sound them immediately with no delay. System Park had 30 seconds before the sirens are activated. Now again, sirens are only designed to be heard outside. They're not designed to be heard in the house, but the problem lies is that's the way people perceive notification. And that, again, will come back, because the questions are always asked, I've never heard the sirens, never heard the sirens. If they're not activated early enough to give that delay, if they had been notified or activated the minute the National Weather Service put these out, they could have had at least 7, maybe 8, maybe even 10 minutes to take cover before this came through. And again, we didn't even know that this actual on-the-ground tornado existed until I was out with the damage survey team. And not only did we find significant damage to an outbuilding, but 2 residents on either side of that outbuilding had actual video footage of the tornado on the ground. It was an easy confirmation. So what I need to point out is, I believe that what I-COM is currently doing is in direct violation of 2 separate annexes within the EOP. One of them is within the communications annex that specifies that this annex should be used to the need to the immediate notification of Iroquois County residents if an emergency arises. Such situations include but are not necessarily limited to tornadoes or severe weather. So that EOP gets annexed, the EOP gets activated in that situation alone. Every time I go out with my group and go storm spotting, I activate the Emergency Operations Center. I do it remotely from my vehicle. That also puts that entire plan into play. Those are things that can actually make everything that falls in that book required. So that's in opposition of that. It also states that the county board chairman is responsible for the protection of life and property. So we have the authority here to add to what I'm going to propose here in a minute. Also, upon receiving notification of impending emergency or disaster, I-COM telecommunicators will follow pre-established departmental procedures. In other words, it's defined within this that specify that this is how this is supposed to happen. Also within the annex, we have a warning annex, and that's specific to disasters or potentially the sirens. And it says in here, the triggers any situation that presents an immediate threat to the lives of Iroquois County residents trigger the need for this annex. So, and examples of them would be tornadoes, severe storms. There's others, but I'm using them specific to this. And again, in the concept of operations, the county board chairperson is responsible for protection of life and property and to ensure that disaster response and recovery operations are effective. Within Iroquois County 911 I-COM system is responsible for all operations of the county warning system. So in other words, between what's in this book and how this is set up, it is the duty of the telecommunicators to follow the policy which is established within here and to activate the sirens upon issuance of what would be a warning, either from me. There's a list of people, county board chairman, the fire chiefs, police chiefs, the sheriff. You know, anybody can make that phone call and say, hey, activate the sirens. I joked at the policy and procedure manual that if the Milford Fire Chief decides that their football team won the championship, they want to activate the sirens, they can. He's going to have to justify that if people call. But they can have that authorization. But the way it boils down to is it's pretty simple. The sirens can be activated by notification from the National Weather Service, and it's currently not being done that way. This is because of my predecessor. He wanted that control. I changed that the day I started. I advised the 911 director that this has changed, and for whatever reason, that is not being followed. There's no policy and procedure manual in place at I-COM. They don't follow that. I don't understand why. That allows for accountability. It allows for us to have the ability, if something takes place, you can have a disciplinary process that takes place. If you don't follow a policy and procedure manual, you have no ability to go back and improve levels of what would be discipline. So I hope that can change. Now, I have drawn up what is the directive. We heard about it. I'll read it to you now. It's will be dated today. To the I-COM director, Eric Raymond, and all dispatch personnel, for me, the EMA coordinator, RE tornado siren activation. Effective immediately. Procedures in place to activate the warning sirens within Iroquois County in case of a tornado warning are hereby changed. The warning sirens are to be sounded within the specific warned area without delay or secondary authorization if a tornado warning has been issued by the National Weather Service anywhere within Iroquois County. Locations for siren activation should fall within the tornado warned area or within locations at the request of the Iroquois County EMA coordinator or my designee. Authorization to activate sirens without delay or secondary authorization may also be requested by any of the following: the county board chairman, mayor or president of a jurisdiction within Iroquois County, the Iroquois County sheriff, fire or police chief within a jurisdiction within Iroquois County, or any on-duty law enforcement or sheriff's police officer within Iroquois County. If any of the above requests are received, notification of the EMA coordinator is to be made following siren activation. I've already discussed this with the chairman. He's willing to fix his signature to this along with me, and I will be presenting it tomorrow night at their ETSB meeting out of courtesy. I am asking the body as a whole, is there anybody in opposition to me sending this? Because if there is none, I will include a line that says, also with support of all county board members. Anybody in opposition?
Can you read the sentence about, did you mention any on-duty police officers?
Yes.
And requested?
Yes.
So like,
a state trooper that's on I-57 has the ability to contact ICOM and say, I see a funnel, I see rotation. Now, somebody in that position in themselves, they're taking on that liability, and hopefully that they've been trained, but most
that's
law
like
enforcement, yeah,
training,
yes.
hopefully it's not a good word.
Well, what it does is, I would much rather still have, if they're the ones that are making this request, I want the sirens to still be activated within that area. But I don't want there to be a delay. If somebody comes back and says, well, we didn't see this, I have to be notified why. I will question the person who actually made the request. I will see what they had, and then we'll go from there. But I would rather err on the side of caution when it comes to this, because I'm also going to be making that notification to the National Weather Service, who will then issue a tornado warning based on a spotter location. I'm not going to take the phone call from just a resident that says that we see this, because at the same time, the week prior, there were 2 incidents in the Ashcombe area where the severe winds that were there created dust updrafts, and one of them I have a video from the fire chief in Clifton that could very easily have been confused with what was an on-the-ground tornado. It definitely was not. It was a dust updraft, and if you know the structure of the clouds, you could easily identify that this was not. But calls were received to ICOM from the residents that were out there saying, we're seeing a tornado on the ground. There was no circulation that was reported with any of those, and the video that was confirmed by the fire chief showed that that's what they were seeing. Again, it could be easily confused, but to the trained eye, you know differently. So the other problem is that people don't understand is where we sit in Iroquois County, we are on the downslope of the radar antenna located in Romeoville for the National Weather Service. We are on the downslope from the National Weather Service's radar in Lincoln. That means that we are not able to have as good of a view from the National Weather Service on what would be cloud level circulation. And that's what a lot of the warnings are issued based on. If the radar shows cloud level circulation within a thunderstorm, the National Weather Service will issue that tornado warning. Because they're not saying that there's a tornado on the ground, they're saying that there's a storm that could drop one at any moment. That's why these warnings come out. Now, I haven't compiled all the data on how many of those, there are many. But to know that we've had that many tornadoes actually on the ground in Iroquois County in this period of time, and that it's increasing, it's important. We've had the most active storm season that we've seen in decades because of us being on the tail end of the La Nina this year, and they're only expecting it to get worse. So I'm just trying to do what is my job, which is to protect the life, safety, and property of anything that I can within Iroquois County, and life safety to me is paramount. So again, I'll ask, is there anybody in opposition? Because if there's not, I will include the line that says that all members present, along with my signature and chairman's signature on what is my direction that I will give them.
You can put mine, I don't have, you can't come at the last 5 minutes of a meeting and demand some kind of unanimous approval, so I.
Oh, well.
I need some information more than just this, so put my name on it, if you wish.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just knew with the chairman, because he offered when I gave it to him yesterday, I just wanted to include that line that there wasn't anybody here that was in opposition to it.
I'm not in opposition to the concept of protecting lives, but this type of, it seems like, well, knee-jerk, like, you know, let's
Okay.
read what we're gonna do.
Or I can leave that off, so.
That'd be great, in my opinion.
Then I will. At least
That's
I will.
just my opinion. I'm not the chairman of the board, and I'm not the
Understood.
board either.
But at the same time, at least I know. If somebody asks me, I can at least say that, hey, nobody was opposed to it. But I'll leave it up to that.
You know, he's probably the best expert in this room on wind shear.
I guarantee you he is. So, that's all I have. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Any further old business? Any new business? Ask for motion to adjourn. Mr. Hall, in the second, Mr. Grant, all fair side, aye, all for the same sign. About 11.